Hello, welcome to Dissident Canada. My name is Tyler. Today on the docket is NATO's false flags that have been going around last week. I talked about the first iteration last week, in which there was a supposed Russian drone attack on Poland, and you know, I recorded before I had fully seen a whole lot of evidence, so I had to re-record, and I was like, original theory of the Russians scaring the crap out of the Poles because the Poles are way too heavily involved in this war. That fell through like immediately. And then it went and looked like a false flag operation to attempt to put, a propaganda campaign together to pressure the Russians into a NATO peace deal. And then pictures started coming out of that original event, and one of them is just gotta be the stupidest freaking picture ever. And it's hilarious, all right? It's one of the it is a Russian drone, okay? It is absolutely a Russian drone. But if you look at it, first thing is the nose piece of the drone is duct taped on to the rest of the drone. That's the first thing that when you're examining closely, you're like, okay, this is a horseshit story concocted, because how are the Russians going to retrieve a drone that is sent deep into Ukraine, okay, as a distract, because it's one of the distraction drones, sent as a, hey, you can hit one of these cheaply made drones that doesn't have any explosives. So it's like a recon type drone, but also a distraction drone. Um, so how are they going to retrieve that? And then the best they're going to be able to do to get it back into service is duct tape that motherfucker together. But even before you get to that, you look at the picture, you're like, that is at least, 100-ish pound drone, say something like that. Okay. Maybe even 200 pounds. Don't know. Like, you figure with it's an extended long range ish drone. It's probably not made out of like foam. So I would presume something closer to, say, fiberglass or something like that. If I'm just guessing, the materials made, and batteries, motor, rotors, get to keep the thing flying. So say 100, 200 pounds. And it landed after apparently being engaged by the Poles on a Polish chicken coop that is completely intact. All right. Now, the thing was built out of 2x4s, but, 100, 200 pounds crashing or, soft landing on a chicken coop is going to flatten the chicken coop and the chickens inside. And yet, here we have a picture of this drone that just is perfectly perched on a chicken coop. Okay, sure, this was a Russian attack and wasn't a orchestrated operation to threaten NATO or threaten Russia with the potential of NATO Article 5, even though they won't do that because they're a bunch of cowards, as can be seen by the reaction to this event. Like, NATO didn't do anything. Sure, they're now having in partial response to this, and in partial response to the Russians having a joint training session with the Belarusians, which American, not advisors, but there is an American military contingent there watching. That's very interesting. NATO is now going to have their version of a military training program or military training exercise in Poland on, the near the border with Belarus. So, great escalation, guys. Do something stupid like that. But after this, there was another mass, what appears to be false flag event using captured Russian drones in not only Poland again, but in Romania. Now, if you remember, I believe a couple months ago, I said the two likely points of for escalation of this war eventually. Okay, I was thinking years down the road once the Russians dealt with Ukraine and this was more or less over the war, and NATO had rearmed to watch Romania and Poland like a hawk. Now I had made the presumption that the more or less Poland nationalist, Poland first type of guy who was elected as their leader wouldn't be so susceptible to, hey, let's poke the Russians with Poland again, because that's worked out so far in history to the benefits of the Poles. Let's use Poland again. Like, I didn't think he would fall for that immediately, or as close as it has been. I thought the plan would be, well, we'll use the Romanians, because if we use the Romanians, then we can legitimately move fleet assets into the Black Sea, because it would be like, oh, no, we're not poking a stick with Russia, we're doing a training exercise with the Romanian Navy and Air Force, and we're gonna, simulate this battle in the Black Sea. Then you can have assets in there, and you can be like, oh, we're in forward operating positions, we can go at any time. Like, that was my kind of thinking. I don't think I fully expressed that in the videos I mentioned that in, but that's kind of been in my background, is that, or in the back of my mind, that Romania would be the big one to watch because of that massively rigged election. And Romania is very much the little brother of Ukraine when it comes to corruption and illicit activities. So I figured they'd just follow suit through that. Although illicit activities from NATO do happen in Poland, like one of the largest United States black sites that's known of operates in Poland, and the Polish government is like, yeah, cool, no, totally, bring your prisoners of war here, and then you can do what you want. We'll let you do it. We don't care. They're not nice people, right? No. Go ahead. Like that. But I suspect this to get worse. Like, I suspect crazier and crazier false flags, and it's because NATO knows they're losing, and they can't pressure the Russians into any type of deal that will benefit NATO. Like, NATO's outright lost this proxy war at this point. There's no way that NATO can get a deal in which, say, the Russians are going to, in the security guarantees part, allow NATO troops to be stationed in, say, Western Ukraine. Like, they're not going to allow that. That's not happening. Like, the Russians are winning the ground game. What was it, a couple weeks back? The Ukrainian government did something I never thought they would do, because it's an admission that they're lost and they're just trying to save what they can. And they're allowing the military-aged males that are exempt under law because they are university students, because they will be the core of the rebuilding effort of the country. Like, you kind of need, civil engineers of all varieties, engineers, and all that other good stuff where you get accreditation at the universities, even though I think universities are way overrated and most things should be an apprenticeship program, especially engineers, because engineers don't know their ass from their dick when it comes to designing most shit. Especially when it comes to constructions, if you want examples, I can give you examples of engineers being absolute fucking morons. Lo and behold, the days of when engineers would come to site and see what's actually there and draw off of that and be like, oh yeah, no, what we have here is wrong. We have to do it this way because XYZ. This isn't exactly the way the drawings were. So what I drew is wrong. So yeah, do it this way. Like no, that doesn't fucking exist. Engineers don't do site inspections anymore. Architects don't do that shit. So, but anyways, they are allowing the rebuilding of society that they need to escape and flee Ukraine. That's how far gone the government of Ukraine sees this. They are letting the last hope of having a nation after this that is under their control go. Like at this point, you have to be like, okay, Ukraine was always kind of not really a nation. Like it's very similar to Taiwan in the sense that like you have two countries, okay, that have like their entire history is linked. They have a shared culture, and you think a political division is going to break that permanently? Doesn't really happen. Like Kiev was the throne of the Russian Empire for like ever. All right? Odessa is a Russian city. And an important one at that. Same with Sevastopol. But, that's in the hands of the Russians. Like the division of Russia and Ukraine from like a province into a country was just ridiculous. There was no Ukrainian core identity before that. There was, oh, we're Russian. And even still now, like the core supposed Ukrainian identity is based off of hating Russians, which is themselves, which is weird. Prior to this stuff kicking off in the 90s, like that's basically when it started, when the wall fell. More than half of the country identified as Russian, not Ukrainian. Like, just the only parts that identified as Ukrainian, you would consider them the problematic parts of Ukraine that you kind of don't want to deal with. If you want to look at it in like Canadian terms politically, you can kind of think of the western parts of Ukraine that you don't want to identify with as like Ottawa, Toronto, and like the greater Toronto area. Because there's like 6 or 7 goddamn smaller cities in the GTA that are all basically the same. And they're right on top of each other. And considering them their own cities is ridiculous. Like, just lump them all together, say it's Toronto, and it sucks. And you definitely don't want to be there. You like there's parts of Vancouver that you would also lump in there. Like every city's got, in Ontario or in Canada, they got that. These are the problem areas. Can we please get rid of them? I would, as someone who lives in Southern Ontario, I would throw the rich parts of, the one rich part of Kitchener, and the rich parts of Waterloo and all of Guelph. All of Guelph into that because there's just something ain't right up in them waters in Guelph. I don't know what it is. They could be putting the shit that turns the frogs gay in there. I don't know. But, like, Guelph is fucking weird. Alright? And I live beside, Silicon Valley, Canada. Right? That's part of Waterloo. And they're weirdos. Alright? Don't get me wrong. They're fucking weird. And they do crazy shit. All the time. Guelph takes it to another level. I'm in the working class neighborhood because, it's what I am. What I've always been. Anyways, back onto the topic. Yeah, so I think these false flags are going to intensify. I would not be surprised if they attempt a false flag at that NATO training exercise or around then. All right? I don't think it will work because everybody that's fault for this has lost all credibility before this even happened by pushing Ukraine. And even the European people are freaking done with this horseshit of a war. But it's not going to stop the power brokers from doing something because they see themselves backed into a corner and losing all control. That's a dangerous place to put crazy people. And these people have lost their damn minds decades ago. And I'm not just talking about, oh yeah, Keir Starmer, Merz, whatever the hell the German chancellor's name is. And, did I say Keir Starmer? Carney, we'll throw Carney in there. I'm not just talking about those people. I'm talking about the people behind them that make a whole shit ton of money off of war. The Raytheons, the Northrop Grummons of the world. The Rheinmetall. That they need liquid cash injections. I don't know any French companies or British companies. The only British company I can think of would be Accuracy International, but they don't make enough product to be influential enough, Anyways, NATO's going to rearm itself, and I think, for the next decade plus, we're going to have to deal with the threat of, oh, hey, NATO's doing something in Eastern Europe way too close to the Russians. Oh, God. Please do not do another attempted stupid false flag. I think we really have to worry about it. The only thing we've got going for us is that the Russians appear to be the only adults in the room who are no, thank you, sirs. We can't. We can put up with the provocation. We cannot put up with going to full-on war because, obviously. Again, the people who think they can win a quick war with Russia don't understand that the supply lines and supply of basically everything benefits the Russians. So what happens when NATO starts running out of supplies and they're on a full war footing? It becomes hot and furious and nobody wins because there's nuclear fire on board. Good job, NATO. Continue to be led by morons. The destruction of NATO, I think at this point is pretty much guaranteed. It's self-destruction, though. As you see after the Ukraine war is finished, you'll see NATO members start questioning, hey, do I want to even be a part of NATO openly? You'll see governments start to openly question this more than, say, just Donald Trump being NATO doesn't pay its fair share. We're out. You'll see more than that. But even, like, I think Donald Trump's reason he goes on that is basically he just wants to offload the price that the United States has paid. Like, he doesn't want to continue to suck the Americans into paying that. He's trying to offload it into the Europeans, even though they totally can't do that. Because for the last, say, 50 years, their defensive strategy has been the United States of America. And as America pulls back, they've run into some problems. So, but yeah, I truly think you will see an increase of these false flags. Like, you'll continue to see likely the Ukrainians attack infrastructure, such as the pipeline that goes to Hungary. Now, obviously, there is a rerouted option that the Hungarians can take, in which it's they don't have to escalate against the Ukrainians because they can just reroute the gas through Turk streams. So, but it's still a terrorist act against a sovereign NATO nation. NATO should maybe consider that. But, like, the real problem that's going to happen is once this is over, you are going to see Ukrainians, specifically Azov and Azar guys, pop up all over the world doing terrorist activities. That is the likeliest outcome. It is the same thing you saw after the Russians pulled out of Afghanistan, and the Mujahideen, which the CIA had assembled out of the craziest of crazies. What did you see? You saw the rise of Islamofascism, but also Islamic terrorism, because you gave the crazies the training. What has NATO done for the last 10 years? Give the crazies training. Not only training, but now they have weapons that I don't know where all those stockpiles are. I'm pretty sure they didn't offload all of them. I bet they've got, a supply closet full of shit that they are going to then use after the war. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you get all Ukrainian private military pseudo company. Like, they'll set it up as a kind of company, but it's really just a terrorist organization for hire. Like, I wouldn't be surprised by that. So, yeah, this is a great jolly old war, and everything's going to be 100% fine. Home by Christmas, Anyway, have a good day. Tomorrow, I was thinking I would talk about the double-edged sword of government fiscal responsibility. And yes, there is a double-edged sword. And it's not just, oh, hey, my benefits. It's actually worse than that. But it's a short to medium term worse than that. And, it does get better on the other side. But there are problems. And the libertarians of the world do not think past, hey, we need fiscal responsibility because I need to be fiscally responsible, so why shouldn't the government be fiscally responsible? Not understanding how government debt works. So I'll go over that. And I have no idea what else for Friday, but I will figure that out. Until then, have a great day.